Now, there's a lot of financial gurus out there that would love for you to have 20% down, 6 months reserves. They want you to have no debt whatsoever. And I'm here to tell you that it's totally possible to buy with a lot less. Now, I also am here to tell you that I don't recommend you just buy in a situation that's going to leave you zero down because you have no other money saved up. I think the perfect area is in the gray area. And that's what we're going to talk about in today's video. Hello everyone and welcome to another real estate video. This is Javier Vidana, the real estate YouTube guy here in Phoenix, Arizona, helping you accomplish your home goals. Now, it doesn't matter if you're saving for whatever's going to come in the future for your money, or maybe you're thinking about buying in the near future. One of the first questions that you get in your brain is, how much money do I really need to have in my bank account to purchase a house? And the reason I know that is because to this day, my number one most popular video, even though it's almost 3 years old, I look pale like a vampire and I got my literally like a dad shirt on. I don't even know what I was thinking about wearing. Now, you may know that you need a certain percentage of the down payment, but there's always this worry like, oh, what if there's extra fees or what if there's extra costs? So in today's video, I'm going to break down how much money I think you need to have in your bank or have saved up before you're ready to buy a house. Now, once again, I did make a recent video talking about, should you be buying right now? Should you not be buying right now? And if you haven't watched it, there's a link above. Like I said earlier, it doesn't matter when you're buying. It's still good to know this information so you know what you're preparing for and how much you need to have saved, basically, okay? All right, let's get to it. First and foremost, let's talk about your main cost. It's gonna be your down payment. The down payment actually has to do with your mortgage, and it depends on what loan program you go with. Now, there's different kinds of loans out there. There's 0% down loans, FHA, conventional loans. I can say the most common loans I usually see are either FHA or conventional. If you don't know which to pick between FHA and conventional, there's a video there now. Go ahead and click it and save it for later. You can watch it after you're done here. It'll help you figure out if you want to go FHA or conventional. I don't expect you to know what purchase price you're going to be buying in, but you should probably have an idea. Do some window shopping, go to Zillow, go to realtor.com. I don't like those sites, but they're great to get an idea of what house you like. Figure out the price range of the house you think you're going to be realistically getting, and find out what the percentage of that is. If you're going FHA, it'll be 3.5% down. If you're going conventional, it can be 3%, 5%, 10%, or 20%. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, it does not have to be 20% down. So whatever down payment you're gonna pick, that's totally up to you. Odds are, if you're a first-time home buyer, a lot of them go for 3.5% down or 3% or 5% conventional. Now, I know what you're thinking.
Javier, what about down payment assistance? I'm a first-time home buyer. I'm sure there's kind of grants out there that.
The truth is, it varies state by state. Some states may have great down payment assistance programs that'll give you a nice cheap rate, and there's other states that get you with a higher interest rate if you go the down payment assistance route. So go ahead and do your own research on that, guys. And if you do find some kind of down payment assistance program in your state, know that it's a government grant. So essentially, it's whatever they're going to give you goes to making that down payment amount less. But there's always some kind of catch behind it. So please do your research diligently. So let's say you're buying a $300,000 house and you're buying with a conventional 3% down loan. We're going to put that number up there so we can follow along and make up an imaginary number. So now let's talk about the worst case scenario. And this starts off with the closing costs. Yes, closing costs is technically a fee that's being incurred by you that in theory should be paid by you. These are fees being caused by your purchase. Title fees, lender fees, all kinds of HOA fees, prepaids, all kinds of stuff. And I know I keep plugging different videos, but literally I built my channel around this already. So there's another video for you to watch below. I might make a playlist in the description just in case you guys are wondering. Now, there are some situations where you can get the seller to pay your closing costs for you, and there are some situations where you're gonna have to incur that cost. Now, worst case scenario, which is what we're discussing now, you're gonna have to pay that. How you determine if you have a chance of getting it or not is very simple. Figure out what kind of market you're in. Are you in an extreme seller's market where there's a limited amount of listings and there's so many buyers that a house literally gets listed on the market and gets sold within a day, and it gets sold 20, 30, 40, 50K above value? You probably have very little chance of getting closing costs. It's still possible. You might find an ugly duckling house and you might be able to get some closing costs from it, but it's very difficult. If you're in a buyer's market where there's plenty of listings and there's not a lot of buyers, and you have a lot of leverage, you could potentially get some closing costs. Now, if you're in the middle, which I think is what we've been for the last few years, unfortunately, that's no longer the case. It all depends on the house and the situation. Now, with closing costs, lenders like to use the average number of 2 to 3%. And the reason why they use this number because it's really hard to determine the closing cost as a general cost. The reason why it's different is because there's prepaids involved. Like maybe the taxes for your house in your area is different to a house in my area. Maybe your taxes are like 5 times more the price of my taxes. So me prepaying 3 months of that taxes will be not as much as you prepaying for 3 months of that number. So what I'm going to say is if you're in an area where your taxes are really high, and you know what area you're in. You know if your taxes are high. In Arizona, we suck at everything, but our taxes are so cheap. Like a nice house would be like $1,500 a year. So that's that. But anyways, if you're in an area where your taxes are really high, probably count them to be 3, maybe even 4% sometimes. If you're in an area where the taxes are not as high, you probably want to guesstimate 2, maybe 2.5%. So in this case, if we're looking at the worst case scenario for a $300,000 house, and we're in my state where the taxes are cheap, we're going to assume 2.5%. So boom, that would be the closing cost amount that I would need to close on this house. Now, you're probably thinking,
Javier, is there any kind of secret fees I should worry about?
You do want to look out for something. There are some realtors out there that charge an employment agreement fee that will say, well, if you want to work with me, I'm going to charge you an additional $500. Or they might be tricky and say, hey, my minimum commission is going to be X%. And if you buy a house that the percentage is actually less than that, then you're making up the difference. Now, there might be realtors that you might justify the value of using them and might be able to pay for it, but something to think about and make sure you're aware of. Other than that, I don't really see any other secret fees except the fees we're not going to talk about, which is the additional like inspection and appraisals and basically costs associated with the actual house. When you get your house under contract, you don't have to technically do an inspection, but you want to do an inspection. I mean, anytime you buy, even a new build, you want to make sure things were done right, things were taken care of right. You want to know what you're getting into. Can you imagine if we can do an inspection on our, before you get married with the fiance, you get a inspector to inspect their life and see what's wrong with them and what things you need to improve on, and hey, their willingness to stay fit is at the end of its life, so they might get a little chunk during marriage. That's what happened with me. Anyways, tangent. Inspection. That's going to usually range. You can probably find one as low as $200 to $400, right? However, there's always these extra add-ons like, hey, you want to add on a pest control inspection, you want to add a termite inspection, you want to add an even in-depth AC inspection, all this crazy stuff. So whatever add-ons you want to add, that's totally up to you. So that's why I like to move that 200 to 400 number to maybe 300 to 600, because I don't know what kind of people are out there and how much add-ons you're going to be adding. Also, if you're buying a giant house, that's going to be more expensive, or if you're buying a house with a pool, you're going to have to pay a little more. So the bigger the house, or the more picky you're going to be, closer to 600. If you're a little more, a little simple, you're buying something smaller, probably closer to $300, maybe $400. So in this case, we're going to use that number for the inspection amount. After the inspection, usually the next fee that they're going to be charged from you is the appraisal. So the lender's not just going to say, hey man, what'd you offer on this house? Okay, we'll give you that money, no problem. They're going to verify that the house is worth what you're offering. So what they're going to do is they're going to hire an independent third-party appraisal through an appraisal management company to go out there and appraise the property. So when they order this appraisal, guess who's paying for it? Most of the time it's going to be you. Now, yes, there's some situations where you can get the seller to pay for them. Yes, there's some situations where your lender will offer to pay for it. But worst case scenario, you're probably going to have to cover it, right? So that's actually it's actually gone up in value. So I think it's closer to $600 nowadays. But yeah, I'm gonna say $600. That's usually the number that's gonna be about. So that number goes up there. And basically, guys, as far as I know, that's really it. There's no other extra hidden fees or anything extra that surprises you at the very end. Now, once again, this is just my experience with my state. Maybe your state charges weird extra fees, or there's other things you need to pay for. I don't know. That's up to you when it's time to talk to your realtor lender for you to ask that question, as opposed to you not knowing any of this and you wouldn't have asked them in the first place, right? So I still need you to do just a little more diligent work when you actually are talking with your realtor lender, but hopefully you have the tools now to kind of understand the general picture. So as long as you have all of these fees, you technically, in theory, have enough to purchase a house. Now, you may maybe you want to get a better rate, or you want to get a different program, or you want to get a lower payment, and that might require for you to get a higher down payment. So instead of that number, it might be this number, or if you want to go really all out, you can go even 10% or even 20%. That is totally up to you in whatever route you want to take. So when it comes to saving the money that you think you need, you want to be realistic. You know, everyone wants to put 20% down. I mean, I would love to put 20% down. What I tell people most of the time is aim for 5%. If you end up getting closer to 3, then great, you have a little extra money. But aim for that 5, and if you're really good at saving money, or you're able to do it with your job, go for 10 or 20, sure. But don't wait years and years to buy because of that, if that makes sense. Now, so worst case scenario, you're gonna have to cover all of these costs. Now, this could change, obviously. You could maybe get the seller to pay your closing costs for you, and now you only have to worry about this number. Or maybe you can get a down payment assistance program that'll cut this number substantially. Maybe it's being covered entirely, or maybe just being covered partially. Whatever the case may be, it all depends on your situation. Now, the next part, I'm going into wild opinion territory. So big warning, a wild opinion territory here. You don't want to just you have your entire savings be this amount and buy the house and be left with no money. Even if you think you have a secure job, it's just not wise, because what happens if you buy it and you get laid off? I know that's terrible thinking, but like I said, even if you're maybe not planning for the worst, you want to put yourself in that position where you're at least covered, right? So my honest to God opinion, it is you want to have between 1 to 3 months reserves. 1 to 2 months reserves, reserves being your minimum month, basically what you need to survive, right? 1 to 2 months reserves if you're pretty sure you have a very stable job, and even with you purchasing that house, that you have a good amount of cushion, right? You're able to save a lot more a month. So you're gonna go down on the funds a little bit. You only have 1 or 2 months reserves, but you're able to build it up back again very quickly and fastly. Now, if you're in a position where it might not be so quickly and you're really struggling and you're really trying to get this money saved, you probably want to be closer to 3 months reserves. When the people buy a house, they go buy furniture, they go buy a new TV, they go all crazy, right? And they go into those savings. Even if I tell them not to, you're gonna do it. So having 3 months reserves will just give you just a little more cushion to know that you got, if something goes bad for a month or two, you have enough to pay your mortgage, and you'll be able to go find a job hopefully in the next few weeks, and you'll be fine, right? So it's very black and white, right? Either black is like you need all this crazy situation, 20% down, 6 months reserve. That's doable and it's possible, but highly unrealistic. If I had that, I would have never been in the position I am, and nor a lot of my buyers would either. Now, if it's completely on the other side, like black and white, so on the other side where you don't want to spend a single dime because you have no money in the bank, well, then I'm going to say you probably shouldn't be buying a house. That's terrible for a realtor to say, right? People out there are blown right now because I'm not telling you to buy a house, but that's the truth. If you're buying something expecting zero down and because you have no money left, you buy it, let's say you're able to get it, you get a high interest rate or whatever, what happens if you lose your job? You have no savings left. You're gonna be put in a bad spot. My number one recommendation is gonna be for you to plan for the worst. Plan and save at least 3 to 5% down. Try to save your closing costs in case you need to spend them, and try to save the inspections and the appraisals and all that, plus an additional 1 to 3 months reserves. That's the number you should definitely strive for. I also understand there might be some of you that might be in other markets, or there might be some of you that have such a high demand to buy a house that it really doesn't matter what the market is. You're gonna move out, and you're gonna have to find a situation where the seller pays your closing costs. Great. Well, in that case, plan B would be to save at least the 3 to 5% down, because you still need that, and the inspection, appraisal, and everything else. And the extra, whatever, 5 to 7 or 2 to 3% that you need to save for closing costs, we're going to hope and pray that we find a seller that is able to get us a number that could pay for that closing cost. Now, you might have that money as your additional savings and you just don't want to use it for closing costs, then that's totally doable. And plan C is if you're being very... You're not, if you're not going to listen to me, you're not going to listen to me, I guess. If you're using a down payment assistance program and you're trying to get the seller to pay your closing costs, you at least need this money, the inspection and the appraisal and all those funds. But I just implore you to please try to have 1 to 3 month reserves at least. Don't do it without buying anything in the bank. Actually, you know what? I'm not even going to say 1 to 3 months of reserves. You need to at least have 3 months of reserves. And I'm not talking about your whole payments, maybe just your mortgage. Have at least 3 months reserves, please, if you're going down this route. It's just the smart thing to do, I suppose. But anyways, guys, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you watching. If you enjoyed this video, please consider liking and subscribing. I would really appreciate y'all. I'm turning into a southerner now, y'all. I appreciate y'all. If you're looking for a realtor in the Phoenix, Arizona area, I would love to help you. All my contact information is below. For everyone else, please feel free to reach out to me on my Instagram and Twitter. You can follow them. The links are below. You can also leave a comment below. We have a really great community here that helps people out. And then, of course, if I see your comment, I might respond to it. Now, if I miss your comment, remember I go live 3 times a week. So if you hit subscribe and you hit the bell icon, you're going to get notified on all my future videos and when I go live. For everyone else, guys, thank you guys so much. If you're interested in learning more from me, I do have some ebooks available on my website. I also have a free app to use for Phoenix, Arizona if you're looking to search for houses. All kinds of good stuff in the description. Just look in the freaking description already. Thank you guys so much for your time. I appreciate you all. Have a wonderful day. Shut.